the sun by the room.
Which is really remarkable since you're just not someone who gets a lot of sleep. So good for you.
No, but I discovered that it feels really good.
Were you using tanning oil or
No.
a sunscreen at all?
I was using my Walgreens number 4.
4.
Yeah, why? What's wrong with that?
No, that's why you're so tan.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of block.
No, but I
use
not too
15.
healthy.
no, it's fine. It's fine. All I need is the number 4. So, and it was 5 years old, too, I noticed on
I was
the
going to say, I
bottle.
don't even know that they sell 4 anymore.
Yeah, they probably don't. It was in my golf bag because I went golfing a couple times, too. And I don't know, and I never play golf anymore. So the only lotion that I had out on the golf course was this real runny Walgreens number 4. Yeah, they probably banned that in most industrialized countries. But that's all I needed. And I'm freshened up, ready to go. And we do have a lot of news to talk about as we get into today's Big Lead.
The Big Lead. Top story.
It was Saturday afternoon when I started getting the text alerts while on vacation about this absolute tragedy in downtown Seattle. We have more cranes, more high-rise construction than any city in the country. And we've had a couple of tragedies. A few years ago, it was in Bellevue when a crane crashed into a guy's apartment and killed him. How random is that? And then the absolute randomness of what happened on Saturday. Now, being a crane operator is inherently a dangerous job. And for those 2 crane operators, you just think about the absolute heartbreaking terror because it takes about 6-7 seconds for that crane to come down. And I know they knew because you could see in some of the videos that are out there of how it was swaying in the wind,
And
too.
Dori, just to clarify one thing, they were iron workers, so iron workers are specifically brought in to assemble and disassemble.
Yeah, and in fact, a few hours earlier, there was shots of them trying to attach a wire as part of that disassembly process.
Yes.
And it was bobbing in the wind, and it was it's just horrible to see. And so you had those 2 iron workers who died in the fall. And then on the ground, 2 people just driving down Mercer on a Saturday afternoon, an 18-year-old nursing student at Seattle Pacific. And you think about, her family, the joy of sending your daughter off to college at a great school like Seattle Pacific, and then to have her life lost in the most tragic of ways. At Channel 4, KomoNews.com, they talked with a guy named Vince Vasile, and he was right in front of that SPU student when her name is Sarah, when her car was crushed by this crane, and he ran back and says he's just haunted by the images.
Close my eyes and I can just see, the crane falling right behind my truck and the truck moving in the cloud of dust. And then just hearing all the sirens and everybody screaming and yelling.
Now, Sarah Wong, he says that it was really tough to process.
To have something fall from the sky like that, like right behind you, I mean, you just don't process that really quick.
And he says that he pulled Sarah's friend out of the car first.
There was a guy walking by and I was like, I need a knife. And he just happened to have a knife, cut it, and pulled her out. And then that's when I saw Sarah.
And then this guy told KomoNews.com that he had a message for Sarah's family, that she was still conscious when he first came to her, and he wanted her family to know this.
Because I just wanted to make sure that Sarah's parents and family knew that she wasn't alone. In her final moments, that I was there with her, and she didn't seem to be in any pain. Because I would hope if my daughter was in that same situation that, somebody would stay with her for as long as they could.
And he had his daughters in the car with him. No doubt that's why he was so deeply touched by this nightmare that had just rained down from the sky on Saturday afternoon. And we're also hearing from the wife of one of the iron workers who died, his name, Travis Corbett. He and his wife, Samantha, they just got married a few months ago. They were thinking about having kids, and she also talked with Channel 4, ComoNews.com.
The past 24 hours have been the worst 24 hours of my entire life. Words can't even describe what a good partner he was. He was just the love of my life.
They lived in Oregon. They planned to go on their honeymoon this coming June. And as you heard in Ursula's newscast, the loved ones of these iron workers, they came up yesterday to see the site, hoping that that would bring closure. Samantha said her husband absolutely loved his work.
He loved it. I'm mad that this happened.
But she saw the site of this horrible accident.
I thought that would help, give me a little bit of closure, and it really didn't because he's not there.
Their life just starting. As I said, honeymoon was planned for June, and then they were planning to have kids together.
And I know that he would want me to be strong, but it's really hard not to just feel so just sad and lost and scared.
It's just heartbreaking. And it is what we talk about so often, the fragility of life, that there's no way to predict when you wake up any given day, the absolute bizarre things that can happen to us and can end our lives. And this woman, Samantha, wanted everyone to know that her husband was a very good man.
He was just incredible. There's no one else like him, and it really sucks that he was taken from this world way too soon.
And so, yes, prayers for everybody involved, the family members, the souls of the 4 people lost in that collapse, the people who witnessed this. I mean, can you imagine if you were in the car, right in front of or right behind this accident?
Well, Dori, the Seattle Pacific University student had another student. Her friend was in the car with her.
Yeah, that was the one that this guy cut out when he got the knife. And yeah, it's absolutely a heartbreaking story and a real tragedy here in downtown Seattle on Saturday, and they're still trying to figure out exactly why it happened. Man, I tell you, I watched some of those dash cam videos, and I heard a guy, an Aussie guy, and he was watching one of those cranes waving in the wind 3 hours earlier, and he had some expertise in that area. And he said to his sons, he goes, that's coming down. I mean, there were people who hours earlier saw enough to make them fearful that the crane may come down, which...
And in fact, they did time-lapse video.
Yes.
Because they were like, this really looks odd.
Yeah, and so that's something that, a lot of people are going to have to answer for, that if passersby were noticing enough danger that they were, like you said, the time-lapse video. Scott Gaines is a guy who talked with King 5 Television.
And the crane just kind of...
These are the people who captured it on the dash cam, and you see it come down, crush the corner of that Google building, and then pieces rain down on the cars in the street.
And the crane just kind of fell over while we were stopped at the light. And after our video cut out, we ran up and tried to help however we could because, it was just crazy. There was debris everywhere. There was cars crashed and stuff. It was really, really hard spot to see.
Yeah, so it's horrible. It's a horrible tragedy. And now they will try to get some answers as to why this happened. And most importantly, if passersby were recognizing the impending danger, why was there not some supervisor, some sort of fail-safe to know that this was indeed an emergency situation on Saturday afternoon? Next up in the big lead.
The big lead. I sense a Dori rant coming on.
Well, our state legislature, which is the most radical that I have ever seen in all of my years here, now that the Democrats have taken control, they are taking us back to the future. 20 years ago, affirmative action was banned in Washington because the people of this state had this crazy radical idea that people should get jobs and college admission based on merit and not on the color of their skin or other factors in life, that the most worthy, the most deserving, based on whatever subjective standards you want to put out there, they would be the ones who would get preferential treatment based on merit. But late last night, The Democrats in the legislature, they passed Initiative 1000, which brings affirmative action back to Washington State. Now, I will tell you what they did not tell you and what nobody else in the media has the guts to tell you. This initiative that the Democrats passed last night is a horribly anti-Asian initiative. If you look at the University of Washington has a disproportionate number of Asian students. Why? Well, because they excel academically as a group. Why do they excel academically? Because Asian families put a premium on the family and on education. Now, certainly Asians in America have suffered, their fair share of indignities. And I understand that African Americans had to deal with slavery, but far more recent than slavery, we were putting Asian Americans in internment camps during World War II. We were taking American citizens, and because of their ethnicity, we were locking them up in internment camps. Did they disintegrate as a group of people in the wake of that? No. They relied on family, on diligence, on education, and now, based on merit, you have a disproportionate number of Asians at the University of Washington, for example, because they tend to excel academically. You've seen what's happening at some Ivy League schools like Harvard, where Asians are now being discriminated against because Harvard has decided that they want to help elevate other groups of people into their university. And so more deserving Asian students are being denied spots at Harvard. And there is a lawsuit, and the university almost certainly will lose that lawsuit. But you see, Democrats here in Washington, they don't care about minorities. They care about making sure everybody feels like a victim. And the groups that refuse to embrace victimization, like Asians, they tend to excel because they are not consumed and bound by identity politics. They are consumed with striving for excellence. And so what you're going to see is people who have lower test scores because they are from some other underrepresented group, and they will be elevated. You will have company owners who are seeking state loans or other state contracts, and they can be discriminated against now based on their skin color because the Democrats have to make everyone a victim. Because once they start stopping with the identity politics and the victimization of all, then the Democrats, they lose their power over people. So this is a fundamentally, these are really odd times, man. Nationally, the Democrats have clearly become the party of anti-Semitism. Ilhan Omar, with all of her anti-Semitic tropes, and then we get a synagogue shot up over the weekend. The Democrats are the party of anti-Semitism. They are in the anti-Asian party here in our state with the overturning of affirmative action or the ban on affirmative action. But that's what Democrats are about. They got to have victims. And the only way that they can really reinforce that point is by continually telling everyone they are a victim. Now, every group, Caucasians, Hispanics, blacks, any group, if we all applied the same diligence to family, keeping families intact, hard work, a priority on education, any group could succeed to the same extent that Asians have succeeded academically. But no. We can't have that. We cannot have people getting ahead based on hard work and achievement. It has to be on government just making everything equal. It's a dangerous place that we're in right now with the most radical legislative session. And the money they are spending this session, it is Doug Erickson. He talked about how much they are growing state government this session.
The budget we're voting on tonight grows government by over 17% in a 2-year period, 17.5%. If we were to grow government at inflation plus population growth here in Washington State, it would be closer to 6.5% growth. So just ponder that one for a second.
Yep, ponder that. Billions and billions in added government, which means added taxes, even though they could have just gone with inflation and population growth and still gotten a 6% bump. But that wasn't nearly enough for the most radical legislative session ever in Olympia. That is your big lead for today.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
Ursula's going to check the news, and then I haven't talked to Brock Heward in weeks now. I was gone last Monday. He was gone the Monday before. We got some catching up to do. The Seahawks draft and much more. The Money Monson quarterback, Brock Heward, joins me next.